Hey everyone, and welcome! Today, we are diving deep into a classic design pattern that can be a real game changer for your code architecture, the abstract factory.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever been deep in a project, writing code to create objects, and you just watch it spiral into this massive, tangled block that's a total nightmare to change or even just understand? If you're not in your head right now, trust me, you are definitely not alone. It's a classic growing pain in software development. All right, so let's first dig into the problem we're trying to fix, a situation I like to call code creation chaos. Okay, picture this. You're building a furniture store app. A user wants a classic chair. Simple enough, right? So you might have a switch statement for the style, and maybe inside that, another switch for the type of furniture. But now, what happens when you want to add a modern style, or 100 more furniture items? All of a sudden, you've created this monster that's super brittle and tightly coupled to every single specific class you have. And what happens with all that tight coupling? Well, you get this, a dependency graph that looks like a bowl of spaghetti. This is that infamous spaghetti code we all dread, where changing one little thing over here causes a whole cascade of things to break way over there. It is, no exaggeration, a maintenance nightmare.
So, how do we untangle this mess? Well, we bring in a really elegant solution, the abstract factory. And a great way to think about it is as a factory that builds other factories.
Okay, so the official, by-the-book definition comes from the legendary Gang of Four book on design patterns. It says the whole point is to provide an interface for creating families of related objects. And here's the most important part, without specifying their concrete classes. That means your main code, the client, can stay completely unaware of all the messy details under the hood.
But honestly, let's just cut through the jargon. The best way to get it is to think of it as a super factory. It doesn't actually make the final products. Nope. Its job is to create other, more specialized factories. And those are the factories that do the actual building. Really, the whole point here is consistency. This pattern makes sure that objects that belong together are always used together. Think about a video game. You want your human character to get a proper human-style sword and human-style body armor, right? You absolutely don't want them to accidentally get an orc axe. The human factory guarantees you only get stuff from the human family.
Okay, so what are the actual pieces that make this thing tick? Let's pop the hood and break down the anatomy of the pattern.
You've basically got 5 main characters in this story. It all starts with the abstract factory. That's our main blueprint. Then you create concrete factories for each family, like a human factory. These factories pump out specific concrete products, like a sword, which are all just variations of an abstract product, like a generic weapon. And the real magic? The client. It only ever talks to the abstract blueprints, never knowing or caring about the specific details. So, let's walk through how this plays out in real time. 1. The client decides it needs a set of products, let's say for a human character, and it gets an instance of the human factory. 2. That factory gets to work and creates a whole matching set of gear, a sword and body armor. 3. It hands these back to the client, but, and this is so important, it returns them as abstract types, a weapon and an armor. And finally, 4. The client uses these objects through their generic interfaces, having no idea that it's holding a sword and body armor. It is completely, beautifully decoupled. All right, but here's the thing. Like any powerful tool, this isn't a silver bullet. It's not perfect for every situation. It has some incredible strengths, but also some trade-offs you have to know about. Let's look at the power and the pitfalls. So, the upside? Man, it's huge. It completely isolates your client from the messy implementation details. This makes swapping out entire families of products incredibly easy. Want to switch from human gear to orc gear? Just swap the factory. Boom, done. And it guarantees that all your products are consistent. But, and this is a big but, there are some downsides. It definitely adds complexity and a bunch of new classes to your project. And here's the biggest catch. If you need to add a totally new type of product, like a shield, you have to go back and change the main abstract factory interface. And that means you have to update every single one of your concrete factories. That can be a real pain. So, keeping all that in mind, the big question is, when should you actually use this thing? When is it the right tool for the job? Let's look at the blueprint. Think of this as your go-to checklist. You should probably reach for the abstract factory pattern if your system needs to be totally independent of how its products are made. It's perfect if you need to switch between different families of products at runtime. It's also your best friend when you need to enforce that rule about related objects always being used together. And finally, if you're building a library for other people to use, this is an amazing way to hide all the complexity and just give them a clean, simple interface to work with. And that really leaves us with the big question you need to ask on your next project. Is the incredible power you get from this abstraction worth the price of the complexity it adds? Well, the answer, as with most things in engineering, is it depends entirely on what you're building. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.